Woolly Story. Welcome to my cozy little corner of YouTube, where you can unwind and drift off to sleep while listening to some soothing bedtime stories. This is the perfect place for those who want to absorb new vocabulary while listening to bedtime stories before drifting off to sleep. So get comfy, relax, and let me help you drift off into dreamland. Long ago, in a distant land, there lived a young girl named Esther. She was a smart and curious girl who loved to explore and learn new things. However, since the society she lived in was male-dominated, she was often underestimated and ignored by those around her. Esther lived in a small village located in the heart of the countryside. Her father was a farmer, and her mother passed away when she was young. Despite the hardships she faced growing up, Esther never lost her love for learning and exploring. One day, while walking through the fields, Esther stumbled upon a small, hidden cave. Curious, she decided to explore the cave, which led her to a secret room. Inside the room, she found an ancient scroll with strange symbols and markings. Esther knew that the scroll was important, but she couldn't read the markings. She decided to take the scroll to the village elder, who was known for his knowledge and wisdom. The elder examined the scroll and told Esther that it was a map that led to an ancient temple hidden in the mountains. He explained that the temple was said to hold a powerful artifact that had the power to grant the bearer immense wealth and power. Esther was fascinated by the idea of the artifact and decided to embark on a journey to find the temple. She knew that the journey would be dangerous, but she was determined to uncover the secrets of the temple. With the help of a local guide, Esther set out on her journey to find the temple. The journey was treacherous, with steep cliffs and terrain, but Esther was determined to succeed. After several days of travel, Esther and her guide finally arrived at the base of the mountain where the temple was said to be located. As they began their ascent up the mountain, they were suddenly ambushed by a group of bandits. The bandits demanded that Esther and her guide hand over any valuable items they had, including the scroll. Esther, however, refused to give up the scroll, knowing that it was their only hope of finding the temple. The bandits became angry and attacked Esther and her guide. Esther fought back with all her might, using her intelligence and cunning to outwit the bandits. In the end, Esther and her guide managed to escape, but they knew that the bandits would be hot on their trail. As they continued their ascent up the mountain, Esther and her guide faced many challenges and obstacles. They had to navigate treacherous terrain and overcome dangerous creatures, all while staying one step ahead of the bandits. Finally, after days of travel, Esther and her guide reached the entrance to the temple. They were exhausted and injured, but they knew that they had to press on. As they entered the temple, they were met with a dark and eerie atmosphere. The air was thick with the smell of incense, and the walls were lined with ancient symbols and markings. Esther and her guide carefully made their way through the temple, using the map on the scroll to guide them. They finally reached the inner sanctum of the temple, where the artifact was said to be located. However, as they approached the artifact, they were suddenly confronted by the bandits who had been chasing them. The bandits demanded that Esther hand over the artifact, but Esther knew that the artifact was too powerful to be used for evil. In a moment of quick thinking, Esther used her knowledge of the temple's architecture to outmaneuver the bandits. She led them on a wild goose chase through the temple, buying her and her guide time to escape. As Esther and her guide made their way back towards the entrance of the temple, they were met with even more bandits, who had been waiting for them outside. Esther knew that they were outnumbered and outmatched, but she refused to give up the artifact. In a moment of desperation, Esther used her intelligence and quick thinking to devise a plan. She used the ancient symbols and markings on the walls of the temple to create a diversion, distracting the bandits long enough for her and her guide to slip past them and make their escape. With the artifact in hand, Esther and her guide made their way back down the mountain towards their village. They knew that they had to be careful, as the bandits were still in pursuit. As they traveled, Esther began to study the artifact more closely. She realized that it was far more powerful than she had originally thought, and that it had the ability to control the elements themselves. With this newfound power, Esther began to realize the potential that the artifact held. She knew that she could use it for good, to help her village and those around her. However, she also knew that there were those who would seek to use the artifact for evil. Esther knew that she had to protect the artifact at all costs, and keep it out of the hands of those who would use it for their own gain. When Esther and her guide finally arrived back in their village, they were met with a hero's welcome. The villagers were overjoyed to see them, and they celebrated their safe return. However, Esther knew that their journey was not yet over. She knew that there were still those who would seek to take the artifact from her, and that she would have to remain vigilant to protect it. Over the following weeks and months, Esther worked tirelessly to study the artifact and unlock its secrets. She learned how to harness its power, using it to help her village and those around her. However, she also remained wary of those who would seek to take the artifact from her. She knew that they were out there, waiting for their opportunity to strike. One day, while Esther was out walking in the fields, she was suddenly confronted by a group of bandits. They demanded that she hand over the artifact, and threatened to harm her and her family if she refused. Esther knew that she couldn't give in to their demands. She knew that the artifact was far too powerful to be used for evil, and that she had to protect it at all costs. In a moment of bravery, Esther confronted the bandits, using her intelligence and quick thinking to outwit them. She used the power of the artifact to control the elements themselves, creating a powerful storm that drove the bandits away. From that day forward, Esther became known as a hero in her village. She used the power of the artifact to help her people, bringing rain to their crops and protecting them from harm. However, Esther never forgot the dangers that still lurked out there. She remained vigilant, always watching for those who would seek to take the artifact from her. Over time, Esther became a wise and powerful leader, using her intelligence and quick thinking to protect her people and keep the artifact safe. She became a legend in her village, and her story was told for generations to come. And though the dangers of the outside world never truly went away, Esther knew that as long as she had the artifact, she could protect her people and keep them safe from harm. And that's it for tonight's story. I hope it made you feel all warm and cozy. Join me again tomorrow for another bedtime story. Good night. Sweet dreams.